according to our estimate, the saving it's between 5 and 8% in terms of logic gates. In terms of energy, which is measured in joules per terahash, is between 2 and 5%. You think the amount of energy that each of, say, the 300 chips of ASIC chips of a miner, and if you have 50,000 miners, then these numbers are really, really massive.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Francesco Gardin, the CEO of Quantum Blockchain Technologies. Francesco, very good morning. When do you expect the patent will be fully granted?
Good morning, Stephen. Well, usually it's between 4 and 6 weeks, but it really depends on how busy they are at the US Patent Office. So all we had to do on our side has been done. So we paid the fees last Friday, and so now it's just a matter of waiting. We did investigate with our UK patent attorney and the US patent attorney, and our UK patent attorney said that in the last 30 years, it's never been the case that a patent which has been allowed and fees paid has not been granted. But until we have the granted patent, we just keep a very cautious position. But I mean, it's we assume that it will be granted.
Is this an important invention? If so, why?
So the real fight among the battle among the ASIC manufacturer is to come up with ASICs which are faster and consume less energy. And it's quite unusual because and odd that for something which started in 2009, I mean Bitcoin, and in around 2012, 2013, you have one of the major improvements in the actual implementation of the algorithm. Of course, the algorithm is the same, but what makes the difference is how you implement it on hardware. And so the ASIC Boost was one of the major innovations. And prior to that, we have our inventor, Raoul Naik, who in his master's thesis came up with an improvement, a substantial improvement. But since then, no major improvement took place. So that to find that even almost 9 years later, 8 years later, someone is still able to find something to improve the implementation of the algorithm is quite, I mean, it's quite amazing. And you think of all the scientists who've been working on this, and here we are. So we are extremely, extremely pleased because the saving that this can produce in the energy consumed by an ASIC is material.
Now, Francesco, who are the potential buyers or commercial partners?
Well, very few, because they are the ASIC manufacturers. And as a matter of fact, we are working with one of them. And clearly, they are always looking for ways to improve the efficiency of their ASICs. And the way that this will work from the technical point of view is that they will edit their current layouts to add this. They will run a simulation, and the simulation is quite accurate as long as you define which kind of implementation you have, the logic gates, the technology you're using, the size of the chip in terms of how many microns. Sorry, nanometers, and then you have quite a good assessment. The next step, just to be 100% sure, is just to produce through few prototypes. The cost now with the current scale, say 3 nanometers, is around $2 million. So once you go through the simulation, you get a good assessment of what's the actual energy consumption. Then if you really want to be 100% sure, you just go for a small production, a batch of 100, 200 ASICs, So basically, you share the wafer with other companies, and what you have is something that you can measure, and the cost for this is no more than a couple of $1 million.
How much would it cost for an ASIC manufacturer to assess the actual energy saving from ASIC UltraBoost?
As I said, they will modify the current architecture, add this, run the simulation, and they would find out what's the saving. According to our estimate, the saving it's between 5 and 8% in terms of logic gates. In terms of energy, which is measured in joules per terahash, is between 2 and 5%. Now, you may think that 2 and 5% is irrelevant, is nothing. But when you think the amount of energy that each of, say, the 300 chips of ASIC chips of a miner, and if you have 50,000 miners, then these numbers are really, really massive.
What's the professional profile you're looking for to assist in monetizing the IP?
Yeah, I mean, we, of course, have already conducted a search in the last months because we had very positive signals from our UK and US patent attorneys, and of course we know the potential buyers, so we don't need to find someone who will introduce to the buyers that we already met at several meetings in the last 3 years in the US at the international events. What the skill set that we are looking for is all the technical arrangements from the legal point of view, the commercial point of view, because in this sector there are so many variables that you can use when you sign a contract, and we really want to have someone who's done already, and he can advise us on what's the best way to structure and enter into an agreement with a potential buyer or user of royalties. So we know who these potential buyers are. What we don't have now as a skill set is the specific details of how these contracts for assigning IPs in the chip industry are arranged, and that's what we need. And of course, we are already on board Jose, who's been in this industry for a long time, but he's not a lawyer and is not an expert on IP. And so he can guide us to look for the right person. He can advise us through a negotiation, but he's not the one who's going to draft the contract and to add all the nice and important clauses to this contract.
Francesco, I hope you'll continue to keep us updated with your progress. Congratulations on this latest milestone.
Thank you very much. We are extremely pleased with it, as you can imagine. Thank you.
Sure. Francesco Gardin, the CEO of Quantum Blockchain Technologies.